Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? This is ZaZaAli. Today is Friday, January 13th, 2023. Friday the 13th. Yes, I pray that this message reaches you all in the best of health, spirit, and mind. I'm doing really well. I put up a video in my membership channel called On Earth as It Is in Heaven. It was part 1. And it was almost 2-hour conversation, semi-presentation, but not really, on that subject, on earth as it is in heaven. And as usual, when I, finish a video of something that I really want to kind of make a point about, there are some things that I forgot to mention. There are some subjects I forgot to a video, actually, an important video to the whole point that I was trying to make that I didn't even play. That I'm going to play today. So everybody who gets a chance to watch this video, which I'm going to make public, will get to benefit from that. So all things work for the greater good. So this video clip of Michael Tessarian, which is a clip of a full video, an interview called The Tower of him that I have in my membership channel as well, but I'm going to play a clip of that. And then I also want to touch on a couple of points from an article about Sufism and the principles of Sufism, which I also didn't get a chance to fully go through yesterday because of all of the other things that I was apparently busy talking about. So I'm going to send this video out to everyone on my email list. I'm going to post it in the Instagram and Facebook stories. And then I'll probably post it on YouTube today or tomorrow. I'm trying to get my audience used to listening to my content and viewing my content on my platforms. I'm really tired of being watched like a hawk on social media and having to tiptoe around the things that I want to say. It's very frustrating for someone who is, my voice and my writing are my ways of communicating with the world. So to be limited in doing that is frustrating. And so I am creating avenues so that you guys can still watch my content, but that it can also be advantageous for me and my business. And just a reminder to everyone, I have a private membership channel that has a very extensive library of content for myself as well as many other great minds. If you would like to sign up for that membership channel, I'm doing a 24-hour sale for 20% off an annual membership. I will place that information on the landing page so you guys have access to that if you're interested. And just to give you a quick idea of, let me minimize my screen, the type of content that we feature on my platform, which was built because I was tired of being censored and because I have a lot to say. On Earth as It Is in Heaven, part 1, all of my content that I've been doing as of late, I've been putting on the membership channel, but I also upload documentaries, a lot of different content about things that are inspiring and interesting to me. Homeschooling parents will find a lot of great benefit off of the Jewels tab, excuse me, in the library. I also do a weekly segment of headline news, and there has been a lot of content covered since I started this particular segment of headline news. And so members have access to this content all of the time. And then Hidden in Plain Sight, which is a library of content and information that is based around, the powers that used to be and what's going on beneath the surface. So you're interested in 20% off an annual membership, I will make that link available to you. And with that being said, let me go ahead and recenter my main screen. There we go. So just to catch you guys up a little bit on what we talked about in the part 1 of On Earth as It Is in Heaven. Like I said, that video was almost 2 hours. And I talked about a lot of things, but I didn't quite cover everything that I wanted to talk about. By the way, thank you to everyone who has pre-ordered Ancient People, a Social Studies and History textbook, Volume 1. I'm very excited about this project. And if you know anything about self-publishing, you know, putting out your own, doing your own distribution, doing your own publishing. It helps a lot when that pre-support comes in for the launch, right? Because the pre-support is what sort of sets the tone for the book launch. And you know, it just helps me a lot, and it helps the whole process a lot. Those of you who have pre-ordered the book. So thank you very much. I promise you, you are going to love, 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 love this book. So Michael Tsarian, in this video clip that I'm going to show, he talks about the concept of being the transcendent being and this concept of being vertical. And he juxtaposes that in terms of skyscraper buildings and the sort of mainstay of how buildings work, how our rooms are made in squares opposed to circular, and just the sort of linear vertical mindset of this reality and how it has led us into this very docile and controlled sort of consciousness in terms of the masses. And in particular, I'm adding on to what his position is, you know, the savior complex, and there always being a hierarchy, and there always having to be someone at the top of the pyramid, always having to be someone in positions of rulership, someone in positions of governance over us. Humanity has been trained and ingrained for a very long time to accept that as a way of life and a way of being. And those concepts are all now being unraveled and being destroyed, right? And so as I listen to the conspiracy theory community sometimes, and they, you know, and they'll, I'll be with them 90% of the way, and then they'll go left and be like, yeah, if you don't accept your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as your, you know, commit and submit to the blood of Christ, and you know, all that Christian language. And then I kind of like, oh, you know, breaks, right? Because there's no one coming back to save us. There have been Christ-like entities, beings, humans walking this planet this whole time, because God didn't, you know what I mean? Like, God didn't have a moment where it became God 2,000 years ago and then said, okay, let me go down and enlighten humanity. No, God is always God. Christ consciousness always is. If you can rise up to it and become it, then you can embody it. So I would hope when in seeing what the power and the beauty and the magnificence of what Christ consciousness or embodying God consciousness, how wonderful and amazing and fascinating that is, that there have been many men and women among us that have risen to that occasion. If not, this seems like this whole experiment might be a failure. And we know it's not that, because consciousness creates reality. So there's no wins, there's no losses, there's no failures, there's no successes on a spiritual level. It's all just expanding consciousness, right? So one thing that I want to emphasize, and that I emphasized in the first video, the lengths that these people are going to keep the truth from us is a very important sign and important lesson, because that's the solution. The truth. When in the video, and I'm going to keep going back to the video because I'm still looking at my notes and replaying that conversation in my head. But one of the things that I said was that these people have spent and are spending trillions of dollars. They've spent hundreds of thousands of manpower hours, time that we can't even probably really account for, because yes, this is a modern issue, but this is also something that ties back to ancient times. I also discussed that, and Hatshepsut, and the reference to the Hyksos and Baal and Moloch, these demonic entities. But they spend all this time and energy, eons of time, maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, right? The demonic, satanic frequency, the lower nature, right? And we can blow that up with our imaginations. You can blow that up with your imagination. Not that you will completely subvert that entire agenda, but it doesn't have to apply to you. So let's peek in on this Michael Tessarian clip. It's 10 minutes. It's very profound. I took some notes from this, and I will give my sort of, perspective on some of the things that he says on the other side of it. Let's share the other screen. Okay, and here we go.
Visual. Oh yeah, that's the key part. There's a sociological symbolism of verticality. So we have a fascination with the vertical. Hence the street scenes and the penchant for these tower blocks, which are actually kind of stupid and unsustainable in other ways. And yet there they stand. There's a ithyphallicism involved there to a degree. But then there is, as you say, this headiness, this Apollonian need to get above things. That's is part of breaking pathological patterns. Getting away, getting up high for a while, flying. People have dreams of being up high and flying, and dreams of spires and winged horses. And so in one sense, these vertical buildings have that. And of course, why? Well, it answers your second question there, because man is the vertical being. The high point, the Tor, right? Tower is Tor, T-O-R-R-E. The high point for man is his brain, his consciousness, his frontal lobe, or just the brain in general. We talked about that at the hermit, with the staff and the lantern. So the verticality is sort of a replica, simulacra of man's own verticality, standing on two legs, and having this vision, as you say. He's the transcendent being, and that word is just used in philosophy to represent man as different from animals and rocks. He's the transcendent one who can think about thought, can question his mortality and all of those kinds of things. So this power, like we said, has a deeper connotation. Yeah, this is the transcendent aspect. So it's a very human card in that sense. And also it's talking about the pitfalls that the human has that the rest of the creation doesn't experience. Maybe we can talk about that in a minute, about the anxiety and the pain and sorrow that is unique to man. But just that simple verticality, and we mentioned it in another context, in The Path of the Fool, when we're talking about Jacob Bohm and Hegel, and the idea of the extrusion of energy, and part of that evil, quote unquote. Now, of course, we're using this term in a very, very philosophical mode, not theological. The evil is just a pang, just a sense of tension, deep, deep, deep tension. You see it in screaming children and babies when they're young. You see it in our own agonies and pains and conflicts and strife. Well, it's just all of that, or the antipathy that you might feel towards your enemy, or towards a failed relationship or something. All of that underlying anxiety, tension, and restlessness maximized. That's what we're talking about. But that state of consciousness also doesn't want to leave itself. It wants to stay put, because the verticality there is a threat, right? The extrusion of energy flowing out, being mutable, seeking, searching, developing, and progressing. What does that verticality represent? Getting further and further away from the root. So even though there's an enormous need to be in the heady Apollonian place, we're at exactly that moment when we have that vista, at exactly that moment when the hermit's thinking he has the greatest view of all man has, or these two people in the tower, you suddenly find that it came at a price. Well, what is this with life? We're miles away from our roots. And that's a sense of self-alienation that Hegel was so brilliantly described and was so familiar with. So there you have this incredible paradox. And it's the same for the man who becomes vertical. His mere integrity, his perfectionism, his need to have that space so he can detach, like we ended the program with, that detachment, that nobility of spirit, or what I would call the moral superiority. Every one of those comes with a negative. His very verticality, his very erectness makes him alienated from the world, alienated from people who absolutely should be in sync with him, in simpatico, and they're not. So there's a deep pathos involved in that card. There's a deep sense of the dualism is necessary. Dualism is a good thing. It's clear. We pointed all of this out. There's nothing wrong with dualism. We're not coming from any Eastern mumbo jumbo, perspectives. But now that you've got the dualism, although there are kindred things, Hegel and Bohm put the emphasis on the kindred things within, between the two aspects, between these antipodes. But of course, they rub up against each other as well. There's parts where they grate. The line between the yin yang looks very smooth. Yeah, no, but it's got kinks. There's points when it does not sound good. It scrapes and rends and makes a terrible, terrible noise. There's points where it's so hard to reconcile these aspects, and that's what the Tower is about. So I think of it as one of the most extraordinary cards. Later on we can look at other aspects of what it means to be ontologically transcendent, because this card does have a great deal to do with pain. In the first part of the program, I just was trying to point out that, well, look, so far so good, but no further. Unless you've cultivated the red wings of self-love, like the Temperance card was teaching us, you're not getting past this point. So the darkest part of this card is hither, you cannot go. This and no more, because the challenges of this Capricornian zone are now so utterly deep rooted. It would be like taking shrapnel out of your brain, like taking pepper that's already cooked meal. It's not going to be done. You have time to do that, and we can't do it now. So the challenges of life, like Hegel absolutely understood, if you don't develop the self-love, you may run on automatic, like a wind-up Duracell bunny that just keeps going, propped up by the world and propped up by the energy of the world, the stimuli of the world, but you're basically psychologically dead, because the challenges in the end will not be passable. And that can happen at 18, that can happen at 16, that can happen at 60. But at some point, your progress is going to be absolutely stymied. You're going to be in the ruts. You're going to be in the ditch, because the challenges will be far too tough without the development of that self-love. And that self-love, I'm just abbreviating. There's so many things. There's a spectrum of what that means. Self-love is many things, many things that impact your culture, impact yourself, impact your creativity, impact your vision of spirit. The thing we do a whole series of shows just on what self-love is. I mean, you've been reading Nathaniel Branden. Do you know how many books that guy wrote? Just that one author on that subject alone?
Oh yeah, and I've only actually been reading his main book, most popular book, which is The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, which I highly recommend. But he also wrote about The Art of Living Consciously and so many other books about this subject. And it's so beautiful. And also, I recently just did a video log on my YouTube channel that people might want to check out, as I was referencing some of these very exact ideas. And I was reading a quote also from Osho, where he was talking about this concept of a dangerous man. What's a dangerous man? And how do we live dangerously? And what does that mean? And he's referencing the exact concept you're laying out here, which is someone that is involved in that process of developing themselves in all of those areas and going on that process of living a focused life, living a life of virtue and morality and seeking and insight and all of these different things. And instantly when you go on that path, he was just mentioning how you're automatically separating from the crowd already, and you're going to be hated. You're going to be looked upon as an outcast, because when you have this sort of, the average collective that people get automatically absorbed into, if they don't go on that process, then they are the ones that they seek safety and refuge in that sort of, the opinion of the crowd and the ideas that everybody sort of agrees on. You hear this term about common knowledge and all this kind of stuff, or common sense, which doesn't really seem to exist these days. And yet when you have somebody stepping out of that mold and developing that self-love, as you were talking about, they're going to be separate. They're going to be looked at almost as a threat, because other people that are not going on that journey and they're not seeking that wholeness, they will feel like somehow you're a threat because you're stepping outside of that mold. And the question is, well, why aren't you just going along with like everybody else? Why aren't you just living the life that everybody else is living? When you start to live the life you want to live and follow your own inner calling and listen to that inner voice, then all of a sudden you've separated. And he's just saying, now you're considered a dangerous man. And I was just referencing how many dangerous men and women have there been in history that have stepped outside of that mold and really brought some profound insight to the world that would help and would provide solutions. Yet what does the world do? They slap them in the face. They spit in their face. They kill them. They arrest them. They don't want to hear from them. And you're getting into where the roots of that are in the the consciousness studies and the psychology and all of that. So it's just fascinating that the symbol of this tower can really bring out this whole entire discussion.
Yes, I saw that blog that you did. It was superb, and this is the absolute platinum level. This is the work of the men and women who are the premier, so that people like me can have the optimism to look boldly into people's eyes, contradict their entire thought process by going, dude, it's been done. I'm an optimist. See me smiling? I can look at all the problems of the world and not flinch, because you know what we've got? We've got a thing called a past. You know why you can't predict futures? Because you're not meant to. You know what you're meant to do? Look at the past. And then the past is the future. And the past is the present. It's ontological, isn't it? Nobody knows what's going to happen around the corner. Yeah, because life made it that you're not meant to be. But you are meant to know what your forefathers have laid down for you. You're meant to value it, not just know about it, but deeply love it, deeply build altars to it, gather a few laurel leaves from it. And when you see these crises and problems, are you going to let the Illuminati and these other guys who want to scare the shit out of you by saying it's all bleak, it's all done? No, why should it be? That's a desecration of the masters came before, who saw deeper into the problems of mankind than we possibly could, handed us the tools and equipment to be able to handle it. Yeah, so you're at
Right. That's the frequency we need to be on. What he just said. Are we going to be scared and afraid and let these people punk us and have us sitting in corners, or going and run and hide? And, I'm not talking about strategy in terms of where we live and buying land. I'm talking about energetically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, running and hiding. Because I'm not doing that. So he said there were so many jewels in what he said. If you guys get this link from my website, make sure you save it and you can come back and watch this at any time. But when talking about the transcendent man, right, in that vertical aspect of what I talked about and what he referenced in terms of always looking up, always striving to, there's something up top that we're striving for in terms of success, right? And then he also said that the underlying anxiety and stress and depression in the world is being maximized to the fullest. That's important because they understand that consciousness creates reality, and whatever the dominant vibration, dominant frequency is, whatever the dominant state of consciousness for the masses is, it's what's going to help them create the world that they have in mind. So it's not just all of the money, all of the manpower, all of the mercenaries, all of the science, all of the data, all of the physical things that are taking place on the ground, yes. But more importantly, it's the ability to get 8 billion people or 4 billion people or 50,000 people to be on one accord in terms of accepting the consequences, worst case scenario, et cetera, the reality, quote unquote, particularly when it's a low vibration, fear-based, lack-based consciousness. He just said, maximizing the underlying anxiety, stress, and fear in the world. Can we maximize the underlying love and gratitude and appreciation and expectations of good things and righteousness and safety and freedom and health and well-being, a world without health care? He said, you have to develop self-love. Otherwise, you're going to be running automatically on the energy of the world, the stimuli of the world. And until you develop and internalize self-love, you won't be able to get past this part of yourself. That is a fact. We have a whole culture, a whole world that has not developed self-love. And this is why so many people have been so freely giving of their health, of their mindset, of their energy, of their time. 98.99% of everything that the government, the medias, the doctors, This whole infrastructure, this whole system has been projecting towards us over the last 3 years, has been negative, and people are still signing up. I don't understand. You at least got to make me feel, happy and satisfied and good about something 2 hours out of the day, at least, please. So as I said in my stories, and as I've continuously been saying, they're attacking where we're supposed to be the strongest, the places where God expresses through us, the heart. In 2 ways, physically, obviously, Damar Hamlin, Lisa Marie Presley. I can go on and on. So that's the physical attack. The CLOTTING in that area. They're attacking the breath, the oxygen. Obviously, the face coverings go without saying. They do absolutely nothing, but they want you to wear it. Claiming you as, Satan claiming you as one of its worshipers. No, I'm being facetious because a part of that is true, but I know most people just, most of us just wore the mask because we had to, because of jobs, because of, for strategy purpose, but they have a different strategy. The stickers on the floor, 6 feet separated, that means something different for them. So most people are running on the stimuli of the world. That's why people can't sit still. That's why they can't. Oh, I said the clotting, I said the heart, I said the oxygen. That's another reason for sticking the swabs in your nose, affecting your ability to properly breathe. The blood-brain barrier is another conversation, but the oxygen, the heart, and the spiritual aspect of the heart is your ability to feel, your ability to have compassion, to be loving, to emit love, to feel love, to transmute love, which is the highest vibration, which could shut all of this shit down overnight. If humanity just immediately, if a small segment of the human population, if the 40 million Black people in America made a conscientious decision and effort to make operating in the love frequency our primary focus, morning, noon, and night in everything that we do, we would completely change the entire dichotomy of everything happening on this planet as soon as it went into effect. Now, when I say went into effect, I'm not talking about fake love. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm not talking about memes about higher vibration and, this surface level shit that most people are doing and existing, especially in the spiritual community. And mind you, I played a clip of Sadhguru in part 1, talking about how important it is for people to control the amount of children that they're bringing on the world, the most pressing issue that humanity has. This is a spiritual guru talking about the most pressing issue that humanity has, being the amount of children that are being born. The Bible says, be fruitful and multiply. I don't know, somebody's lying. So you heard Michael Tessarian talking about the root. He referenced the root several times. And in the Kabbalion, you guys know I always reference that passage that talks about the further you are away from the center, the more in bondage you are. And the closer you are to the center, the freer you are. That's the job now, to get closer to the center. But the devil's job is to keep you away from the center. So women don't want to be women anymore. Men don't want to be men anymore. Families don't want to be families anymore. And not just because we grew up in dysfunction. It's not just the fact that families were broken and dysfunctional. We have a whole new set of circumstances in our families now. Did you take the shot? Have you been tested? Have you been sick? Are you coughing? Have you submitted to the overall agenda in order to be able to come into the safety of your family? It's insanity. But when you have self-love, You won't be a victim to and succumb to that, family or not. Because there's something within you that's sustaining you and that's guiding you and that's telling you that that behavior is anti-God, anti-Christ consciousness, even if it's being reflected in the people that we love the most. And now judgment day, the judgment, the real judgment on every day, on any given day, is, are you going to submit? Are you going to play for that team, or are you going to play for this team? Your higher self, your inner being, your higher nature, the truth, the voice within you that's guiding you and telling you what's right and what's wrong. And he said, the guy who was interviewing him rightfully said, you become a threat when you don't need the world, the outside world stimuli, because everybody's kind of dancing to a certain tune. And it's fulfilling to them and gratifying to them, at least on the surface. And then they see you're not dancing to the tune. And it makes them uncomfortable. Bring my screen back to this other side. I thought I was already sharing this, but I'm glad I thought about it. It makes them uncomfortable. Two opposing frequencies can't occupy the same space at the same time. So you're in the frequency of compliance. You're in the frequency of complacency. You're in the frequency of, I don't want to rock the boat. And I was born to rock the boat. So to these two, in a world of suffering and chaos, yeah. In a world where nature is under attack, where our planet is under attack, where children are under attack, where the elderly are under attack, yeah, I'm rocking the boat. So you don't need outside stimuli. It's so funny, like going around your family and being a vegan or being somebody that doesn't eat meat, and everybody's kind of joking around and playing like, oh, how could you not eat meat? Oh, you having lettuce for dinner, ZaZa? Yes, I'm having lettuce for dinner. Thank you. People can't imagine that you can turn down, that you can't live consistently without eating ribs. Oh, I gotta have some pork every now and then. No, I haven't had pork and I have no idea when the last time pork even entered my body. It was so long ago that it doesn't even matter. So not needing outside stimuli is the key to becoming a supreme being. He said superior. He said those of us that are, willing to take this path and this journey are the superior beings. I like that word. I usually say supreme beings, but that's what it's going to take. If they can get you to go crazy, going back to the vertical, because remember, if in the vertical, from the vertical consciousness, if at the top of the, we'll use pyramid, there's enlightenment or there's success or there's fame or there's wealth, right? Okay, so then that means that there's a lot of people and divergent states of consciousness beneath that, underneath the foundation of the pyramid. Somebody has to be at the bottom for somebody to be at the top. So if they can get you to go crazy, if they can get you to identify with depression, think about how many people are locked into the frequency of that word. Because I hear it a lot. I don't know, I feel like I might be depressed. Maybe. Or maybe you just work at a job that's beneath you. Maybe you want to be a veterinarian or work with doctors or work with animals or do something in nature. Your heart is calling you to be out and to be in the world and to be a part of nature. And you're sitting in a cubicle, a gray cubicle with fluorescent lighting, which is extremely unhealthy. Having to deal with a person who's in a position of authority over you, who probably barely got out of college. Is it really depression? Or do these people have you locked in a frequency that your mind and your spirit are like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore? He said, he talked about separation, and this is where the rubber's going to meet the road, because how many of us are going to actually have the courage to separate from any and everything that is not in alignment with truth, and that is not in alignment with our best interests and our overall well-being. The separation is already happening. How many people have revealed themselves in the last 3 years that you know personally or publicly, business-wise, career-wise, etc.? Yeah, the veil is being lifted, not only on the Illuminati and the powers that be, but on individual souls, those who are operating in God consciousness and from the love frequency, and those that are willing to risk it all for outside stimuli, something that's not even fulfilling in the first place. So the balance, in order for you to find balance with separating from what is not in your best interest, regardless to whom or what, but at the same time, maintaining a frequency where you can balance your relationships with your family, balance your relationships with your community, particularly the people that might be playing for another team and not know it. A lot of people that we love are playing for a different team now and they don't even know it. That's another story for another time. In order to have that balance where your family doesn't drive you crazy and society doesn't drive you crazy, you have to be balanced within. That's what Michael Tsarian is talking about with the self-love. And a side note, he references Hegel several times in this interview. And to me, Hegel is not really a morally, you know what I mean? What he ended up doing, he had, positive aspects, and there were other aspects in terms of the foundation of what we know as the educational system in America. Hegel and Dewey were very foundational in parts of that haven't really played out well for humanity, but I digress because that's not the point. They want you to go crazy and be depressed and be in chaos and turning up so you don't have to turn within, because fear and chaos and low frequency is where the devil plays. It's a frequency game. Fortune favors the bold. What does that mean? Fortune favors the bold. That means maybe if you have courage, you will be blessed. Not maybe, for sure, but I'm just saying. Stepping out on faith, trusting the universe, trusting in yourself, believing in yourself, operating from that inner place that you can't quite put your finger on, that voice, but it's always there, that intuition, that imagination, that deeper yearning, that deeper seeking, wanting to embody something deeper than where you are, wanting to understand the world beyond a surface level. I was having a conversation with my client. She'll probably be listening to this. Hey, sis. And I was talking about making decisions on the hamster wheel. Because we're talking about what do you want to do in your business? And, in terms of not just referencing her now, but just in terms of where it is that you want to go from where you are right now, where you want to live, the people you want in your environment, the type of relationship, all of those things, the things you desire. And answering that question from on the hamster wheel, and then answering the question not on the hamster wheel. You got to get off the hamster wheel in order to be able to even decide from your true, authentic self what it is that you want. That means you're going to have to slow down. That means you're going to have to be still and be quiet. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. So they're making choices and decisions and living from the hamster wheel. It's a program, it's a conditioning, it's a training that has been developed and damn near perfected for a very long time now, particularly in America. Am I making this choice from a fear-based consciousness? Am I making this decision from lack-based consciousness? Am I thinking about this from my lower nature? All this worry and stress and fear and concern, is this godly? Does God approve this? Does God agree with this? Sad guru talking about population control. Just a side note. When Bush was in office, they put together a lot of religious-based programs built around 501c3s. It was in the Bush era. And now that I look at it, they were starting this agenda back then when George Bush was in office. That was sort of the prelude to controlling the spiritual leaders, the pastors, the priests, the preachers, the imams. Because you see, in the last 3 years, there has been absolutely zero resistance. And I'll say zero, but I'm sure there were, small mom and pop churches around, everywhere, churches and mosques, small mom and pop. So let me correct my language. But as far as the collective conscious, any strong, momentous, powerful movements in terms of religion, in terms of spirituality, yeah, none. How is that? So the mission has been going on for a long time now. As we just saw the recent announcement of Lisa Marie Presley's death, war on the heart, once again. The thing that most connects you, aside from your pineal gland, to the creator, to the source, and the pineal gland has been under deep attack through fluoride and aluminum in the sky, in the white lines they're spraying in the sky, and 1,000 other things that we could talk about at another time. Continuously trying to disconnect you from your power source. So that means we have to strengthen and embolden our connection and our relationship with the power source. That's the answer, because we see how they're moving. Declaring war on your immune system and then creating technology and putting it in your body that fortifies the war on your immune system, weaponizing your sickness. So everybody that's bragged like, oh, I'm gonna die anyway. So what if I got heart disease? So what if I eat sloppy, horrible food? So what if I don't take care of myself? So what if I'm loose with how I carry myself and my hygiene and my overall health and well-being? So what? I'm gonna die anyway. It's my life. Oh, okay. Well, they've created something that can expedite the process for you if you still feel that way. Weaponizing sickness. It's maddening. I'm going to do a video soon called If You Took the Shot. It's going to be a video with a presentation, but it's also going to be accompanied by a document with some pertinent information. I don't know when I'm going to do it because I'm knee deep in this book right now. But the Damar Hamlin situation and a couple of personal situations with people around me has really just kind of reiterated to me that I need to get this done. It's probably going to be for sale on my website for $33. And I think that is a very just and balanced amount for the amount of time that it's going to take me to put this together, as well as the amount of time that I have researched over the last 3+ years, specifically 3 years, but way longer than that. And also because I can't speak freely, so I have to carry this information and this content and always have it available on my website. And my website is not cheap to run. So, but I am going to do it because, there's no cure. There's no, this is the right thing. Not that we know of so far. but I have collected a very good amount of information and resources, and I'm looking for, blood work and things like that before I even vouch for anything. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try to get that out over the next week or two. If you took the shot, that's going to be the name of it. It'll be available only on my website, but I will be promoting it on my social media pages. Fortune favors the bold, so the focus right now needs to be self-esteem and personal power, because the imagination is critical. They spend trillions of dollars and hundreds of thousands or millions of hours of manpower and energy and time into deceiving you, into controlling you and your descendants and your ancestors and the people who will come from you, before you and after you, all races, all nationalities, all cultures. This has been in full effect. And we haven't confronted it, so now we got to confront it within first, but then in the broader context of the world, the collective consciousness. So they put all that time and energy and plotting and planning and strategizing, and you can blow that whole shit up with your imagination. I will blow that whole shit up with my imagination in my world. I don't know what's going to happen for everybody else, but I don't foresee water shortages in my immediate future. I know what they're planning. I'm not planning for that. Think about the imprint we put on the universal consciousness by planning for something we don't want. Cautious and aware, yes. Being prepared, absolutely. But you're never going to hear me say artificial intelligence is going to be running the world. Fuck out of here. I don't think so. Think about the statement, the universe is always conspiring in your favor. Stop taking it to the alchemist, right? And that's a fact. The universe is always conspiring in your favor. That's a universal law, not man's law, not Supreme Court, not your local jurisdiction, not the prison industrial complex, not the legal system, the educational system, none of that. Universal law. Everything is governed by this principle. The universe is conspiring in your favor, but it's not personal. So if you're saying, I don't think this is going to work out for me, everything's going wrong, why is everything always going wrong for me? The universe is not evaluating and saying, wait a minute, don't think about it like that. Fix that and then let's do this. The universe is saying, oh, okay, that's the frequency you're on. Here's more. So it's still conspiring in your favor, because all things work for the greater good. Eventually, it's going to have to work itself through somehow. That's why this idea of waiting on a savior or waiting on a God to come back or any prophet to come back and save you is a waste of time, because wherever you are in your thinking and your consciousness is actually creating your reality that works for the individual and the collective consciousness as well. How much shit could America have gotten accomplished over the last 4 years while they're waiting for a new election and spending all this time talking about election, all the people on the right talking about election fraud and, oh, they did Trump wrong, and all the energy that they directly and indirectly put in Donald Trump over the last 4 years. How many communities and schools and real life tangible things could we have actually brought into the communities that you're waiting to assist and serve when Trump gets back in the office? Mr. King of the Jim Jones juice, self-proclaimed, he said it himself. How anybody trusts this dude or actually has any faith in him at this point, you're questionable to me if you're waiting on Trump, with all due respect. Self-love, self-esteem, personal power. Are you living on a surface level, or are you operating from your authentic self? Are you on the hamster wheel or not? God said the universe is conspiring in your favor. Satan said, don't go outside. Satan said, don't love your neighbor. Don't hug your neighbor. Stay away from your neighbor. They're sick. Matter of fact, here's a phone number you can call if you think your neighbor is sick. Here's a phone number you can call if you think your neighbor is not in alignment with our agenda. It's the vertical pyramid happening all around us. Lack-based consciousness is where the devil is. Love-based consciousness, abundance-based consciousness is where God is. It's applicable to every single thing in the world. Everything we experience, everything we think, everybody we know, whether they know it or not, it doesn't matter. It's applicable. The universe is conspiring in your favor. So how are you thinking? How are you feeling? If you've tapped into self-love, life's going to get a lot easier for you. If you haven't, I don't know. In this article in the Sutra journals, this is referencing Sufism. There were a couple of these I wanted to highlight before I let you guys go. And I meant to read these yesterday or in the other video, and I got all caught up in my own personal soapbox. So I'm gonna make sure that we get this in today. And then I'm gonna let you beautiful souls go back to whatever it is that you were doing or that you plan on doing. Sufi principles, number 1. According to Sufi tradition, humanity is evolving to a higher condition. This purposeful evolution is guided by a plan that includes the awakening of certain capacities within each person. The guardians of this evolution and plan have the responsibility to help direct and correct deviations. There's some angels among us. There's the love. You think if the hate frequency and the harm you frequency, and we getting ready to take billions off the set, you think if that frequency is on the scene, that there's not a frequency on the scene that's gonna love and protect and cover down on the righteous ones? Yeah, I think I'm very sure there is. In the part 1, I showed the image of the Black Buddha in the Grand Canyon, the Black Buddha that's in the Grand Canyon that's surrounded by hieroglyphics. It's such a powerful and beautiful image. But in the image, I was basically saying, like, y'all worried about the reptilian, y'all focused on the reptilians and the lizard people. I want to know who this brother right here is. I need to be tapped into his frequency to be able to create that type of monumental feat and then hide it from everybody. Because why do you need to know? We're going to put this somewhere where you're never going to see it. You want to be asleep? Go for it. But here's a reminder. Number 2, humanity originated far beyond the stars and will one day return home. While in this realm many possibilities exist, the highest or noblest is alignment and action with the truth or light. The truth is the underlying unity of the universe. It is the mother and father of us all. The truth becomes manifest so it might be known, loved, and served. Now, juxtapose that with the extreme levels from most people of running from the truth. What is that frequency going to produce? What is that level of consciousness going to bring into fruition in terms of these people's plans? Like I said, it's not just what's happening on the ground. It's what's happening within, individually and the collective consciousness. Because if they can keep you locked in a frequency, you're already aiding to the plan, whether all of the other things that are planned go off with a hitch or not. Being stuck in depression and fear and lack-based consciousness is absolutely 1000% in accordance and in alignment with what these people have in terms of their agenda, on a small scale and a large scale. Number 4, with the awakening of certain capacities, additional abilities appear. Some term these supernormal. They are natural byproducts of another state of consciousness. You have to be seeking the awakening of certain capacities within yourself. Most people are not. like me saying to you or to the world or someone saying it to me, you have limitless potential. There's nothing you can't accomplish. You can, you're an author, you can do, name off the top 10 things every author wants to experience, or whatever your field of work or study is. You can do all of these things. There's no limit. And then me being like, well, I don't know. I think I'm just going to ride this mediocre train out. And so the universe says, okay, well, then we'll make your mediocre. We'll give you more mediocrity. We'll give you a mediocre man. We'll give you a mediocre job. We'll give you mediocre circumstances. And the universe isn't judging. God isn't judging, because it is what it is. The lessons, the soul lessons are going to take place regardless. This time, next time, doesn't matter. Time is not a real thing on the spiritual plane. But if you go after that limitless potential, even if it's baby steps, guess what? With awakening of certain capacities, additional abilities appear. We're waiting on God, and God is waiting on us. Number 8, there has never been a time or community that has been without the teachers or enlightened ones. They can be of any faith or spiritual background. They are with us today and are most precious, are our more precious resource. That is my target audience. The teachers and the enlightened ones. And I don't mean people with big platforms. I'm talking about the people that have the courage to step up to this moment. The people that are interested in finding out how to figure out the solutions, new technology, new levels of thought, new streams of consciousness, new ways of building, new ways of producing, new ways of taking children, new ways of learning. The enlightened ones, on a large scale and on the very smallest individual scale. We've always been here. How many of us are ready to step in and walk in those shoes? Number 9, because of the disharmony in the world today, a corrective must be added. Because of the harmony in the world today, a corrective must be added. The corrective, identifying the consciousness of the corrective means we're not sitting back and waiting for someone to come and correct it. A corrective must be developed. How will you add to that? I'm adding to it now. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why I wrote the books I wrote. I'm adding to the corrective. I'm taking responsibility for the corrective. I'm doing my part for the corrective. Are you? Because of the disharmony in the world today, a corrective must be added. This is the higher or spiritual knowledge. It is a nutrient that helps other capacities mature and expand. This nutrient is added one person at a time. And finally, number 11, all aspects of consciousness are important. A balance must be struck between the many selves. The balancing factor is the highest consciousness, is the higher consciousness. You have many selves. In the Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook, I created a chart, your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self, and then created the layers within those 4 aspects of all of us that all of us have, regardless to if you're super spiritual or not spiritual at all of us are operating from certain spaces and dimensions of consciousness and existence. And they're all important. But a balance must be struck between the many selves. So you can't neglect your emotional self and go and chase the bag and think that you're going to live a life of wellness or health and well-being. You might be rich, or only focus on the spiritual, be so spiritual that you're no earthly good. Queen or king of quoting references. And this guy named George Green, he's in the membership channel. I hope you guys have watched this content because it's very informative, 2 videos. But in one of the videos, he said, it's important to look back, talking about history. but it's also important not to stare. A lot of us are staring back at history because we have absolutely no clue what to do in this time and space. Look back, but don't stare. You have many selves. Do you know your many selves? Do you know your emotional self? Are you in a position of wellness with your emotional self? My son and I were talking about one of his managers at his previous job, and how this guy was like, he's basically a hater, a Black dude. And you know, he's just telling me about this experience with this guy, and I told him, some men are good men, some men are kings, and then some men are neither. There's a lot of neithers in the world in terms of the queen, you know, queen versus good woman. There's a lot of queens in the world. I mean, there's a difference between being a queen, being a good woman, and then some people are neither, right? There's a lot of neithers in the world. It's a lot of neutrality, a lot of complacency, or, you know, surface level movement, complacency in terms of the mental, spiritual, and emotional self. So that's the message I wanted to give to you guys today. On earth as it is in heaven, this is part 2. I said I was going to talk for an hour. I talked for an hour, and I'm not going over. I hope you have appreciated this message. I hope you are well. And if you want to sign up for my membership channel and have access to this type of content, which is 80 to 90% going to be held on my channel moving forward, because that's what the times are calling for, especially with censorship, then you can save 20% today. It's actually 33% with the, it's always on sale. If you pay for an annual membership, you save a certain amount, but if you take the additional 20% off, you'll save 33%. So I'm going to post the link for that. And whether you do or whether you don't, it's all good. I appreciate you guys. Ancient People, Volume 1, a social studies and history textbook, a beautiful work of art, and nothing like it is anywhere on the market, anywhere in the world. And I'm very excited to give this to the world. So thank you to those of you guys that have supported me and that continue to support me. Peace and love.